Good day, everybody. It's Michael Levitas here with Yakov Spektor, an immigration attorney, and we're continuing our sessions of Q&As on various questions on immigration law.
Hi, Michael.
First of all, Yakov, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. And I want to ask you, deportation, that is very dangerous because that's the last resort. Deportation is where the government takes you and basically throws you out of the country. So we want to stop that. How do you think you can stop a deportation?
Well, one thing to really know, one thing to be aware of, if you are undocumented in this country, and you get any letters that come from the government, you probably already know that, but you don't want to ignore that. There's a lot of people here who kind of get scared, especially if they're undocumented, but you've got to understand that just because you might get a letter telling you to come to immigration court, that does not mean that once you are going to show up, they'll grab you and deport you, unless you are an actual criminal. And if you're an actual criminal, then you might want to talk to a criminal lawyer before you talk to me. Because I am an immigration lawyer, but for most people who are undocumented here, as you all know, you are not criminals. Okay, you're just undocumented, and the government cannot just, grab you and deport you. Okay, but what it means is that you'll show up. The judge will want to know how you might be protected from deportation. It's called removal proceedings, by the way.
Okay.
The government is not using that word anymore because it does scare people.
Right.
It's called removal. But if you do not show up for a single hearing, okay, the judge will order you removed. Once again, that does not mean that, someone will come to your house and try to remove you. But if you do have a removal order, which is essentially a deportation order, on your record, just because you were afraid to show up to court or afraid to talk to someone like me, if God forbid, many years down the road, you go for a vacation, let's say somewhere close to Niagara Falls, right? And immigration police gets a hold of you and they see that you have a deportation order on your record, then they do have a right to simply remove you. And if you don't have someone like me to try to actively fight for you at that particular point, you will be removed. So if you do get something from the government, you have to remember, even if you're in deportation proceedings, even if you're in removal proceedings, the procedure has to be followed. Most likely we should be able to do something to keep you here for a number of years, maybe longer, maybe even get you a green card. So the takeaway from this is that deportation is a scary word. The removal proceedings is a scary sounding type of proceedings, but do not ignore it. Talk to someone like me.
So that's the lesson learned here, is that you have to communicate, I guess, with what used to be INS, now it's called DHS, right?
USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services.
So you have to cannot ignore them. That's the most dangerous thing. You have to communicate and communicate through an attorney. So the takeaway here is go to an immigration attorney, go to somebody like Yakov Spektor to know your rights, and go with Yakov to court so that you have a knowledge about your rights and you can get protected. Yasha, I want to follow up with a question on deportations, as you say now it's called a removal order. In sanctuary states, I understand there are more rights, or you have more protection than in other states. People are not always often clear on how this works. Can you explain, please? Sanctuary state.
So that actually, the word sanctuary itself, right? That it just means that you're seeking protection. As you know, especially if you're a history buff, which I know you are, Michael. I studied history in college, and sanctuary was something that people would actually seek that in the church, for example, right? When let's say during the Second World War, Jews would sometimes seek sanctuary in a lot of Catholic churches or Protestant churches, and sometimes they were able to escape concentration camps like that. Sometimes not, but nevertheless, that's what sanctuary is. That's basically when a third party is taking it upon itself,
protect you.
moral duty to protect you. And the sanctuary city, for example, New York City. Okay, at some point they decided that, you know what, look, we have a huge population of undocumented immigrants in our city. They're bringing our food, they're cooking our food,
Right.
they're delivering our takeout, they're cleaning our streets. We want to protect them from federal authorities just trying to deport people. And the federal authorities, it really depends on who is in the White House at the moment. If you have someone like Trump in the White House who is like who used to be avowedly against immigrants, the federal officers all of a sudden will turn into people who will be trying to deport undocumented immigrants. With other presidents it gets a little easier. But those cities, pretty much, they decided what they're going to do. They're not going to cooperate with the federal authorities. They're not going to let their police cooperate with the federal authorities. And there is a very good reason behind it. Because let's say if you're an undocumented immigrant, right? Or you're an undocumented immigrant woman, right? You're married, your husband is abusive. Or let's say somebody burglarizes your house. And you're afraid to go to the police because you're afraid to tell them about your immigration status because they will deport you. That's a big problem for the society in general. When people are afraid to go and report crimes, you want to make sure that they're not afraid to do that. So those sanctuary cities, it's not only, they didn't just do it for the moral reasons, but they actually decided that what they really want to do, they want to protect the society in general. They want to make sure that people are not afraid to go to the police. So that's how the sanctuary city or the sanctuary state term came about. Of course, if you're undocumented, you will probably know if you live in a place like that. If not, you probably should learn a little bit about the place where you live in.
So it goes by the city, not by a state. So for example, in New York, would you say that only the city is sanctuary, not the whole state?
It's not the whole state, Michael. No, that's actually, it's in the New York City. But as you know, New York City, even though it's a very small place compared to the New York State. New York State is a huge state, but nevertheless, population-wise, it's almost half of the population of the New York State, and so it's a big part of who may provide sanctuary and who may not.
So would you say that if you are I don't want to say illegal resident, if you don't have a green card yet, let's put it this way, would you say it's more dangerous for you to travel outside New York City? Should you be cautious and be aware of that?
When we talked at some point, when we talked about deportation proceedings, what does it mean, when the government is trying to deport you? All that means is that the government is just initiating proceedings that may last for years. Same with pretty much being in a sanctuary city versus, let's say, a non-sanctuary city. All that means is that you might be at a greater danger of those proceedings being initiated. For example, if you go somewhere to close to an Arizona-Mexican border, okay, you'll see a large concentration of border police there. So, they might just, pull you and check your papers during your routine traffic stop. Okay, so just use common sense, talk to someone like me if you're undocumented, see what could be done, know where you can go, where you cannot go, know what your rights are. And most likely you'll be able to avoid most of the trouble that befalls the undocumented immigrants in this country.
Okay, thank you, Yakov. Yakov, I see that sometimes when people are under deportation or removal orders, they either put on a monitoring system like an ankle bracelet, or they're remanded. They put actually in an immigration prison. Why do some people go to prison and some people get a bracelet? What
so that I think we might go way deeper into history than we might like. So I'll try to avoid that. So we're just going to talk about what the situation is right now. Don't forget that if all of a sudden, we get Republican administration coming to power in 2-3 years, these rules might change. But at this point, the government has no interest of really deporting you unless you have a criminal record.
I
You know,
see.
there's so many undocumented immigrants living in this country
Right.
that, you know, the government wants to concentrate its limited resources on
Mhm.
making sure that the criminals are off the streets and the criminals do not stay in this country, which is a reasonable way
Right,
to,
that makes sense.
to approach this. And this is what they try to do. Now, if you do have a criminal record, you know, we all make mistakes. And if, you know, you're one of those people who, let's say, when, you know, in your younger years, you know, you did some things that you weren't supposed to, you were persecuted, convicted of those things. Okay, you know, you definitely want to talk to someone like me to see what your options
Exactly.
would be.
Mhm. Okay, very good. Okay, Yasha, thank you so much. We appreciate your useful and interesting information. And we're going to come back to you soon with a few more questions on immigration law. Thank you very
Michael.
much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.